Did you know the Titanic was never described as unsinkable without qualifications until after she sank? Quite a revelation, right? The unsinkable Titanic, as we've come to know it, is more of a myth than a certified fact. This grand ship, a marvel of her time, was indeed built with an impressive array of safety features. The Titanic was designed to stay afloat with any 2 adjoining out of her 16 compartments flooded. She could even float with the first 4 compartments completely filled with water, a remarkable feat of engineering, don't you think? But unsinkable? Not quite. The White Star Line, the company that built and operated the Titanic, never actually claimed the ship to be unsinkable in its advertising. Sure, they touted the Titanic's state-of-the-art safety features, but they never outright said she couldn't sink. The closest they came was stating that the Titanic was designed to be unsinkable, which is a far cry from a guarantee. So where did this unsinkable myth come from? Well, it seems to be a result of the overconfidence of the era. The early 20th century was a time of great faith in technology and progress. People believed that human ingenuity could conquer nature, and what better symbol of this than the Titanic, the largest ship ever built at the time. But as we all know, this confidence was tragically misplaced. When the Titanic struck an iceberg on her maiden voyage in April of 1912, she sank, taking more than 1,500 lives with her. In the wake of this disaster, the unsinkable label started to emerge, likely as a way to highlight the hubris and overconfidence that contributed to the tragedy. So, this unsinkable label? More of a post-disaster myth rather than pre-voyage bragging rights. The Titanic, while a marvel of engineering, was a victim of her time's overconfidence, a stark reminder that no matter how advanced we get, we must always respect the forces of nature. Imagine having a heated swimming pool, a gym, and a Turkish bath on a ship in 1912. A voyage on the Titanic was not just about reaching the other side of the Atlantic. It was about experiencing the epitome of luxury and comfort that was beyond anything seen before on the high seas. The Titanic was in fact a floating palace equipped with amenities that were unheard of at the time. Picture this: a heated swimming pool filled with seawater, a gymnasium fitted with the latest exercise machines, a Parisian cafe with authentic French cuisine, and a squash court. Yes, you heard that right, a squash court on a ship. And that's not all. The Titanic also boasted of a grand dining saloon that could seat over 500 passengers at a time. Its menu was a gourmet's delight, offering a range of dishes to cater to the refined palates of its first-class passengers. From oysters to roast duckling, from sirloin of beef to potted shrimps, the Titanic's kitchen served it all. The ship's first-class passengers could also indulge in a Turkish bath, a luxurious treat that included a steam room, a hot room, and a cooling room. This was a novelty in the early 20th century and was more akin to a modern-day spa. To top it all, the ship had its own newspaper, the Atlantic Daily Bulletin, which kept the passengers updated with the latest news and stock prices. Now let's compare these amenities with those of a modern cruise ship. Today, cruise ships are like floating cities with multiple restaurants, bars, theaters, and even shopping malls. But remember, the Titanic was doing all this over 100 years ago. It was a pioneer, setting new standards for luxury travel. Indeed, the Titanic was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of the opulence and extravagance of the Edwardian era. It was a testament to mankind's relentless quest for comfort and luxury. Who knew the Titanic was a floating paradise, right? The Titanic sailed for just 4 days before hitting an iceberg. What went wrong? It was a journey that began with grandeur and promise, yet ended in unfathomable tragedy. The Titanic, the largest ship of her time, was not just a marvel of engineering, but also a symbol of man's audacity and ambition. But within a span of 4 short days, the unsinkable ship met her match in the form of an iceberg, leading to one of the most devastating maritime disasters in history. So, what went wrong? Well, it wasn't just one thing. A series of navigation errors and poor decisions played their part in this catastrophe. The Titanic was traveling at a high speed in an area known for icebergs. Despite the danger, the ship's officers were under pressure to maintain the speed to impress the world with the Titanic's maiden voyage. Adding to this, there were iceberg warnings. Multiple ships had relayed messages to the Titanic about the ice ahead in the North Atlantic. Yet, these warnings were largely ignored. Perhaps it was complacency, the faith in the ship's advanced design and safety measures, or simply the hubris of man, but the warnings went unheeded. Then there's the theory of the mirage effect. It suggested that unusual atmospheric conditions on that fateful night might have created a mirage, obscuring the iceberg until it was too late. This theory, while not universally accepted, offers a tantalizing explanation for why the Titanic failed to avoid the iceberg, despite having lookouts on duty. In the end, it was a combination of these factors, speed, ignored warnings, possible optical illusions, that set the stage for the disaster. The Titanic, a symbol of man's triumph over nature, fell victim to nature's unpredictability and man's own fallibility. So, a series of unfortunate events and decisions led to the Titanic's doom. The Titanic was a microcosm of society in 1912, with passengers ranging from millionaires to immigrants. As we delve into the lives and stories of the Titanic's passengers, we find a fascinating tapestry of humanity. The ship wasn't simply a vessel for travel, it was a floating city, a cultural melting pot, a microcosm of the early 20th century society. The ship's first-class passengers were the elite of the elite, the crème de la crème. Among them was John Jacob Astor IV, considered one of the richest men in the world at that time. His wealth was so immense that it was said to exceed a staggering $100 million, yet even his extraordinary wealth couldn't buy him a guaranteed spot on a lifeboat. Then we have the unsinkable Molly Brown, another fascinating character. Born into a poor family, she married a mining engineer who struck gold, catapulting them into high society. On the Titanic, when the lifeboat she was in wasn't filled to capacity, she insisted on going back for more passengers. Her indomitable spirit earned her the nickname Unsinkable. But the Titanic wasn't just for the affluent. The majority of the passengers were third class or steerage, often immigrants seeking a new life in America. They came from a variety of countries, dreaming of new opportunities and prosperity. They were the backbone of the ship, making up more than half of the Titanic's total passengers. One such passenger was Guillaume Joseph de Messemaker, a Belgian farmer who was immigrating to America with his family. He survived, but tragically, his wife and daughter did not. His story, like many others, paints a vivid picture of the hopes, dreams, and tragedies that unfolded on that fated ship. From millionaires to immigrants, from the aristocrats to the working class, the Titanic was a snapshot of society in 1912. Each passenger had a story, each life was a thread in the grand tapestry of the Titanic's voyage. The Titanic was a floating city housing a slice of the world within its walls. The Titanic's tragic tale has been immortalized in books, films, and more. The ship's ill-fated voyage has transcended history, becoming a fixture in our collective cultural consciousness. Its story has been told and retold, each time with a unique perspective yet always echoing the same poignant themes of human hubris, tragedy, and resilience. One of the most notable portrayals of the Titanic is the 1997 blockbuster film, directed by James Cameron. The film brilliantly weaves a story of love and loss against the backdrop of the Titanic's voyage, bringing to life the grandeur and ultimately, the tragedy of the ship. The movie's stunning visuals and emotional depth have made it a classic, ensuring that the Titanic's story continues to reach new generations. But the Titanic's influence in popular culture extends beyond the silver screen. It has inspired countless books, music, and even video games. From historical novels to haunting ballads, the Titanic story has been interpreted in myriad ways, each offering a unique perspective on the ship's tragic journey. And it's not just about the ship itself. The Titanic has become a symbol, a metaphor for the human condition. It represents our triumphs and our failures, our dreams and our nightmares. It's a reminder of the fragility of life and the power of the human spirit. The Titanic's story continues to captivate us, over a century later. The Titanic's disaster brought about significant changes in maritime laws. The tragedy propelled the establishment of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, mandating enough lifeboats for all passengers and regular lifeboat drills. It also led to the creation of the International Ice Patrol to monitor iceberg threats. The importance of the Titanic's disaster in shaping modern maritime practices cannot be overstated. The Titanic disaster was a wake-up call, and its legacy continues to influence maritime safety.